Thanks for joining me for episode 29 of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast. This is the 6th episode of Season 2, and I'll be joined by John Corippo to talk about formative assessment and how to help teachers teach better while working less. We'll chat about Quizizz, Gimkit, Socrative, EduProtocols, kale-flavored ice cream, meat-flavored candy, and more.
Hey, I'm Gretchen Bridgers of the Always a Lessons Empowering Educators podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller.
Duct Tapers, welcome in. Thank you for tuning in today. It means so much to me that you're joining me once again today. I'm excited to have John Corippo on the episode with me, but no offense to John. Seriously, John, don't worry. But I'm more excited to have you with me today. It makes me so happy and so proud to have you listening today. It really does. That might sound cheesy, but it's just an honor to have you guys listening. Now that I've told you how much I appreciate you, I'm going to go right to trying to use you. I want to make a request. I want to request something of you. Please tell a friend about the show. If our ultimate goal is to benefit students, then turning more educators into duct tapers, as we say, seems like a no-brainer to me. Grab a friend and help them subscribe to the show. Find someone who is new to podcasts and open their eyes, or I guess ears, to the wide world of podcasts. Find someone who listens to podcasts, but not EDU ones, and show them that educational podcasts can be fun too. Like, listen, this guy calls you a duct taper. You've got to listen. It can be fun. I don't know if that's a good way to sell the show or not. So let's get to some of that fun. If you're a new duct taper, let me really quickly break down our format for you, limerick style. This is the podcast I make. It starts with talking from Jake. I pose questions to a guest. An educator might suggest. Then the part where listeners partake. What do you think? I'm a regular Bill Shakespeare, eh? After that poetically explained portion comes my favorite part of the podcast, which is actually a week later when we have the hashtag #EduDuctTape Twitter chat. So on Wednesday, October 23rd, we'll have a chat where we discuss this episode. It'll be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's on Wednesday, October 23rd. I really hope you'll join us. Go mark your calendar. Heck, you don't even have to mark your calendar. You can just get the calendar that is in the link in the show notes. Add that to your Google Calendar if you use Google Calendar, and then you'll have that on your calendar so you're ready to go. Speaking of Twitter chaps, I'm not speaking of chaps. We talked about chaps last week. Mike Mohammed brought up chaps. I'm not talking about chaps right now. I'm talking about chats. Oh gosh, I'm losing control. Let me try that again. Speaking of chats, C-H-A-T-S, Twitter chats. This is a big one. I'm kind of bearing the lead here with my silliness. On Thursday, October 17th, that's the day after this episode launches, so it might be too late for some of you, but for others of you, it won't be, so I'm telling you now anyhow. I will be the moderator for the hashtag Ditchbook chat. That chat is based off of the work of Matt Miller, a previous Educational Duct Tape guest back from Season 1. Anyhow, the chat is named after his first book, Ditch That Textbook, which is a phenomenal book. Can't recommend it enough if you haven't read it before. In the chat, we'll be looking at Matt's ditch metaphor from an educational duct tape perspective. I think it's going to be a fun way to think about ditch book and educational duct tape, and I'm excited to work with that group of people that always participate in that chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you will join us. Again, that is October 17th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know that's too late for some of you, so if it is, just check on that hashtag ditchbook the next day. See what we said, and then there's always a post too showing you some of the best tweets from the night, so you could connect that way as well. While I'm on the topic of social media, did you know there was a Duct Tapers Facebook group? We're nearing 300 members, and there are some great conversations taking place in there. I hope that you'll join us. There's a link in the show notes. By the way, we're doing a contest in October. Anyone who comments or posts in there is entered to win. One person will win a free GIF or it's hard to say it. I'll pretend I'm talking about peanut butter. A free GIF or GIF peanut butter sticker, and one person will win free registration in an upcoming cohort of my GIF a Day learning opportunities. That's just by joining that Facebook group and then doing either a comment on one of the posts or making a post of your own that's for the Duct Taper community. Again, the Duct Tapers Facebook group, you can just go search Duct Tapers on Facebook. I bet it'll come up, or the link is in the show notes as always. Speaking of in the show notes is a list of what's coming up on my calendar, and let's check in on that calendar. Next week, I am so excited to be at TCCA in Texas. In November, I'll be keynoting the My Google Conference in Michigan, speaking at the Teach Better Conference in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and doing a mini keynote at the WVIZ IdeaStream Technology and Learning Conference in Cleveland. By the way, for that Teach Better Conference that I mentioned, which is November 8th and 9th, I think, whatever that Friday and Saturday is of that week, you can use the code FRIENDS50, that's FRIENDS 50 to get $50 off registration. It's not Friends because we're big fans of Friends, although it is a hysterical show. It's because you're my friend. You're a friend of a speaker, and because I'm speaking, I'm able to give you that code to get $50 off. As Nick Burns from Saturday Night Live would say, you're welcome. Gosh, I'm such a nerd. I'm also doing 2 full-day workshops based off of educational duct tape at Kent State University. The first of those is on November 22nd, and the second is on December 6th. Those are not just for Kent State University students or anything like that. Those are for educators. Full-day workshops. You think that an hour-long podcast with me is an experience. Experience is a kind word for it, I assume. Try a full day of educational duct tape. I can't wait. We're going to have so much fun. Details for all of that stuff is in the show notes. There's also details in the show notes for the upcoming online Teacher Success Summit that is being hosted by Chuck Poole. You might know Chuck as the guy from the Teachonomy Talks podcast. So he's organized this awesome online summit. You've got to see this speakers list. Ted Dintersmith, Sarah Thomas, Rick Wormelli, Dr. Sheldon Akins, Matt Miller, Jam Gamble, Adam Welcome, Michael Cohen, Casey Bell, Don Wettrick, Dr. Monica Burns, Ray Hewart, Kim Strobel, Tony Jackson, Claudio Zavala, and gosh, so many more. There are dozens more. So I'm honored to be listed with all of those names. I'm talking about some spreadsheet tips. I wanted to shake it up a bit since I've done educational duct tape and a few other online summits. Anyhow, there's a link to register in the show notes. It runs from October 28th to November 2nd. It's free, but there's also a paid option that gives you unlimited access to the speaker videos. Full disclosure, if you get the paid unlimited access through my link, I do get a little slice of that pie, but as long as it works with your schedule, I think the free version will be great for all of you as well. Okay, let's get into the world of podcasting. I was on the Teach Better podcast a few weeks ago. I love that show, and it was an honor to be on it. I had a lot of fun chatting with Jeff and Ray. I feel bad that Ray was so bummed about missing out on my best buds coffee date with Jeff. Anyhow, you should check out the episode. There's a link to that episode in the show notes. As always, a link to all of the things I talked about are in the show notes. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just grab my soapbox from over here. Yeah. There we go. That's perfect. Climb up on there. If you ask my 3 kids what one of their funniest memories is, they will almost certainly reference the tissue incident. This memory comes from a video that is infamous in my household. It shows my daughter, Parker, as a 1-year-old standing in a hotel room. What makes my kids laugh is what she's doing while she stands there. In this particular room, there was a tissue box sticking out of the side of the countertop for easy access. Little Parker was amazed by this, and what she was more amazed by was that every time she pulled out a tissue, there was another tissue right behind it. Oh my gosh, it's so cool! And so she continued pulling out tissue after tissue after tissue until she was standing in a 1-foot tall pile of tissues. Literally, it was like up to her knees. She wasn't giggling or squealing or really doing anything. She was just so focused on seeing how many tissues she could pull out of there, I guess. It was like she was amazed that she just kept pulling them out. And there was another one behind it. I think she would have gone for hours if there was enough tissues in the box. But in the background, you could hear my son, who was 3 years old at the time, giggling like crazy. You see, it was about 11 at night, and we couldn't get the kids to sleep. The 1-year-old was focused on these tissues, and the 3-year-old was being entertained by the 1-year-old. If somebody walked into the room, they might have asked, "Why did your daughter pull all of the tissues out of the tissue box?" Because she didn't stop until the tissue box was empty. I'm not sure how I would have responded to that person with the really weird voice, but the point that I want to talk about today is that she did not just pull them all out. No, she pulled out one, and then another, and then another. And she continued one by one until she had pulled them all out. It probably seems like I'm splitting hairs here, but it's an important designation to me. Whenever we achieve something big, like a giant pile of tissues, I guess, it doesn't happen all at once. No, it happens one tissue at a time. Seth Godin says about creating change, making a ruckus, or building anything big, it happens drip by drip. I like a term that he uses on one of his blog posts, focused persistence. Persistence because you have to stick with it, even if it's difficult. That's persistence. And why is it focused persistence? Because you know your goal. You are focused on a certain deliverable. You are focused on achieving something specific. Hopefully, though, it's something bigger than pulling tissues out of a tissue box. Godin has one of the most popular and followed blogs of all time. And he pointed out in one of those posts, you don't launch a popular blog. You build one. And that is focused persistence. The way to build a popular blog is to blog regularly, to persist, even when it's difficult. Again, to build a popular blog, you blog, and you blog some more, and you blog some more. But I don't want to talk about blogs today, or tissues for that matter. I want to talk about our craft as educators. The other day, I was presenting about educational duct tape, and I was telling the story about my STEM classroom from a few years back. Educators are normally pretty impressed to hear about that class. It was student-paced, the curriculum and activities were on a website, and I had all kinds of components built in to make it efficient and effective. But by the end of the talk, I'm always concerned that some educators feel that it's not something they could ever achieve. But I try to remind them they're looking at the whole pile of tissues. They're not thinking about the tissues one at a time, because that's what I did. I built the class tissue by tissue. There were actually no tissues involved, but I built it small goal by small goal. As Seth Godin would say, drip by drip. First, we developed the vision of the curriculum. Then some of the activities. Then I realized that my class should be paced by the students. Then I built the website. And I didn't then put all of the activities onto it because they weren't all ready to go onto it yet. So I put them on one by one. And when the class started that next quarter, I probably had 3 or 4 activities on the site. That's it, just 3 or 4, because I just had to stay ahead of the students. As long as I was one day ahead of them, I was in good shape. And after a while, I realized that I had some issues. I needed to know where each kid was in the progression of the course at any given time. So I added a Google form. And then I realized that some of the students were overwhelmed by the amount of work they had to accomplish throughout the course of the class. So I added a calendar to keep them aware of where they should be, to chunk up the steps of the class. Instead of looking at it as a big path, they looked at it one day at a time. Later, I discovered the students weren't consistently watching the videos that were part of the course. So I embedded the videos into Edpuzzle so the students could self-assess and so that I could be sure that they had watched. Drip by drip, I built a class that was impressive. But each drip wasn't focused on being impressive, as we discussed in the last episode. Each drip was focused on my goal. And by meeting that goal, and of all of the smaller chunk goals that made it up, I was being effective. And that actually is pretty impressive. Drip by drip, tissue by tissue, one step at a time. When Stacy Roshan was on the show a few weeks ago, she talked about her highly impressive flipped high school math class. She also shares extensively about this course in her awesome book, Tech with Heart. She was sure to point out when she was on the podcast that she did not do this all at once. She built this flipped class over the course of 8 years. That's focused persistence right there, guys. 8 years. Not all at once. Year by year, lesson by lesson, video by video, day by day. In her book, she says, making a major change to your teaching practice doesn't happen overnight. That was true for me when I started flipping my classroom. This is still Stacy talking here. I want you to see that shifting to a flipped model can be a gradual process that improves as you learn what works and what you want to see more of in your classroom. Stacy then expands on what she did during each year of this process in her classroom, drip by drip. Or, from the perspective of my daughter, tissue by tissue, and from my perspective, focused persistence. Identify the things that you want to achieve in your class to benefit your students. Identify that why. Identify those verbs. You'll probably end up with one big goal or a bunch of pretty big goals. Break them apart. Choose your priorities. Identify what step comes first, and then go, and then persist, and then reflect from the lens of that focus, that goal. And you'll get there. And on the way, you'll hit lots of awesome milestones. Celebrate them. And then continue moving forward. Focused persistence.
Today's guest.
All right, today our guest is John Corippo. John serves as the Chief Learning Officer for Q. He shares, speaks, and leads educational professional learning for educators internationally. John is the co-author of the EduProtocol Field Guide Books 1 and 2, both of which are Amazon bestsellers. You could find John at q.org/pl or eduprotocols.com or reach out to him at jcorippo@q.org. John, welcome in, buddy.
I'm just messing with you. I was just messing with you. I delayed there on purpose. Good morning, Jake. I thought with a name like EdTech Duct Tape that maybe your brain was jumping into like, oh, how can I fix this problem? No, I was there the whole time. Thanks for the cool intro.
I was like, oh no, where is he? Because there's the awkward pause. Everybody is listening right now.
I love the awkward pause.
Oh no, the podcast just exploded right now in my iPhone.
I just did that one time I was doing a Google Hangout from a McDonald's play place. Long story, but I just decided to just freeze. So I'm doing the Hangout and I don't do anything. And then I hear
like in a robot pose.
Yeah, and then I hear the room going, "Oh no, we lost him!" And I'm like, "No, I'm still here. Gotcha." So, just keep things fresh. It's low grade humor. I'm a 6th grade teacher. This is what I do.
Right, that is right on par.
Yeah, this is 1 or 2 levels above Screech.
Right. Perfect. I love it. So we've got you on because we love the work that you're doing with EduProtocols, which I think we'll probably get to as we're chatting. But tell us more about Q, because I hear a lot about Q online, and I'm an Ohioan, so I'm like, what's this whole Q thing?
Yeah, well, I would just say the quick and easy way is we're an ISTE affiliate, so we're aligned with ISTE internationally, and we represent California, Nevada. We have about 26,000 members in California, Nevada. It's free to be a member. We are kind of like Teachers Without Borders. So if somebody was from Canada, shout out to Jen Giffen. People could just
what's up, Jen?
What's up, Jen? They could just randomly join. But our focus is California, Nevada. We love educators from all over the planet, and then we do cool PD and do googly stuff and Apple-y stuff and Microsoft-y stuff and Flipgrid-y stuff. Shout out to Ann Cosma, and we just do our. There's a quote from David Gurin. I hope I'm saying his name right. He said, we need teaching geeks who like tech, not tech geeks who like teaching. And so to me, that's kind of our jam.
Yeah.
We are people that enjoy educating the whole human child. And we think that doing it without technology is probably not the fastest way to get her done. So that's the essence of Q right now.
I love that. So would you say that the majority of the stuff you do is like in-person stuff, or is it online stuff, or is it a good mix of it? Like how much is each?
It's a mixy mix. We probably take care of between fall Q and spring Q and bold. We're pushing the neighborhood of 8,000 or 9,000 people face to face. We take care of another 10 to 20,000 people in small events, which is the q.org/pl thing, where we take the experience of a Q event to a school district, which is for a lot of California districts that are wildly underfunded. It's way cheaper for them to bring us in for the day than send people all over the state with planes and jets and vans and all that stuff. So that's actually crazy affordable because we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So we go out to school districts, and then we just booted up our Q Master classes this last year. So I went first with the infamous EduMeet edition, where I taught people how to barbecue in Google Classroom, and that was just a really fun time. I actually had a person say this class changed their life, which doesn't get better for a teacher than to have a barbecue class that changes people's lives.
That would change my life too.
I'm tearing up right now. But then we just had a really cool one that we did with Rakuten Overdrive. If there's any Sora users out there, Rakuten has thousands of teachers all over the planet using their books, and So we did one with EduProtocols. Marlena showed teachers 3 ways to use digital texts in much more effective ways. So we're master classing now. So we've got it covered, man. We've got the face-to-face, we got the online. So just a lot of jamming going on out there. A lot of cool, enjoying the work of teaching kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congrats on all that.
Oh, it is a party, but it is a hard-working party. You know what I mean? It's like when you take 150 kids on a field trip and you're like, well, that was fun, but I can't wait to not do that till next year.
Right, exactly. Yep. It's satisfying and exhausting, right?
Yes. It's that double whammy thing.
But you guys also, a lot of fun people involved in Q, so you get to hang out with a lot of awesome folks while you're doing all this stuff, right?
That's why I should change my name to Chief Stoker. I don't know if everybody on the podcast knows what a stoker is, but that's the guy he's the guy that throws the wood into the fire that makes the train or the ship run in a steam model, right? So I am not the wood. I'm not the engine. But my part of the jam is getting people connected, plugging them into the network, making them feel welcome, giving them opportunities, and then they go out and they start self-replicating that. And if you just look at the Q Twitter feed or my Twitter feed, you can see. But that's probably my role as the Chief Stoker, because somebody's got to keep the flames going. And some.
All right. Well, today on the podcast we have John Corippo. John serves as the Chief Stoker for Q.
I like it.
Right. We're going to redo the intro. Chief Stoker. All right, Chief Stoker. Let's have a little bit of fun before we actually dive into some educational duct tape questions.
I'm always down for randomness. Hit me.
Nice randomness.
Which of these things do you consider to be less torturous?
So now we're going to play a game of which of the following is less torturous, which has a more popular common name, but I'm not allowed to use it due to copyright infringement. I get called by some people on this. So it's which of the following is less torturous. So I've got 2 questions for you, and you're going to tell me of these 2 answers, which of them is less torturous to you. Okay. The first one.
I'm processing.
I think I already know your answer on the first one here, because of something you've already mentioned, and I've been on some Sons of Technology chats where you talk about your affinity for the grill. So, which of the following is less torturous, or would be less torturous? Eating kale flavored ice cream or meat flavored candy? If you've got to pick one, which are you picking to eat? Kale flavored ice cream or meat flavored candy?
Second, meat flavored candy. Yeah, sugar bacon in particular, actually, or chocolate covered bacon. I can already name the product.
Right, you're not just making something up here. You're like, I know meat flavored candy.
Yeah. I'm actually. I got to tell you though, I'm at peace with kale. I'm okay with kale. So
yeah, it goes in my smoothie, not in my ice cream though.
I'm okay with that.
Right, or my candy.
Yep.
So sugar bacon is what you're going with here, and it's a no doubt answer, like the fastest to the trigger on a which of the following is less torturous.
Yeah, if you had a pile of kale flavored candy on a table and sugar bacon candy on a table, I would not see the kale. It wouldn't even happen.
Right. It's not even there.
It's like a predator-prey relationship thing.
I think that's probably true for any non-vegan person around. They're making that same choice as us. I don't think anybody else going for the kale.
That's entirely possible. That is a significant possibility. I think you're on.
People are probably going to let me know that I'm totally wrong on that one when they listen. We'll see. So second question, we're getting a little closer to the ed tech here. Which of the following would be less torturous? Having a public records request put in for all of your emails, or someone putting a public records request in for your YouTube viewing history? Which
would be less torturous? God, they're pretty boring. My YouTube stuff is mostly World War II tanks. So come and get.
Well, that's less. That's probably less torturous then.
And then I got to tell you, for your listeners, my email is only positive. If I'm going to choose somebody out, I usually do it face to face. So you're not going to see a lot of anything exciting in my email.
Okay.
You can call me old school or whatever, but I just started that back in the day. I was like, nah, we're just gonna do good stuff in email. So you're not gonna see me complain there very much.
Right? Did you see? Speaking of which, this new feature.
You didn't ask about texts. You asked about email.
Maybe I should ask about text.
You said, or DM.
Did you see this new feature coming out for Grammarly? Do you know Grammarly?
I love me some Grammarly. Yeah.
So they're coming out with a new feature that will tell you the tone of your email before you send it.
Woo!
So like you type up an email and they'll be like, you sound angry in this email. Crappy. Is that what you were going for? Right.
I want to see how
your email has horrible punctuation.
Yeah, I want to see what words they use to describe that.
Right. You sound like you're having a real bleep, bleep, bleep.
You got a case
day.
of the Mondays in your email.
Yes. Did you mean to portray a case of the Mondays in this email?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Now that could be handy though, because we've all heard the platitude, right? That your email didn't convey the tone.
Right.
Although I have a side theory on that. I think that is a fallback position for being snarky and then claiming that email didn't carry the tone. That's what I've seen. I never ever do that with people like you. I'm like, Jake, what was the tone of your invite? I'm not sure I understood the tone of your invite. That don't happen.
Are you eagerly anticipating me being on the show, or are you sarcastically anticipating me being on the show?
Is this something your wife makes you do when you're eating kale flavored candy?
Does she say, record a podcast with John Corippo? Get out, finish your kale flavored candy, and then get down there and record that. I can't tell what your email is saying to me.
I love it.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, let's actually talk about some educational technology now. So we're going to talk about some educational duct tape. And for the newbie listeners out there, for the noobs, as the kids would say, educational duct tape is my silly metaphor that educational technology is at its best when we're using it as a tool to solve a problem in the classroom, not as the focus of what we're doing in the classroom. So we're using the technology to solve a problem, meet a need, address a learning goal, benefit the student learning experience, not to focus on the technology itself. So that's what we're going to do. We get some questions. I'm going to start off first, John. And I think I have a hunch what you're going to say for this one. What formative assessment tool can an educator use to determine what next steps they should take with the class? So the important part here is we're using it, we say formative assessment often, but we're really...
Oh, we say that, and then we hand out the teachers pay teachers, let's be honest.
Yeah, and then we don't use it formatively, right? So the key part of the question here is we're actually using it formatively. We're going to make some decisions on next steps based on this data. So how would you do that?
Oh, well, since you asked.
I did. That's true.
That was one of the initial EduProtocol concepts, is the fast and the curious, which is, I will explain it this way. When I see teachers using a tool like Kahoot or Quizizz or Quizlet, it tends to be an augmentation. So they still do the lecture, they still do the fill in the blanks, they still do the word search or the crossword or whatever. They still do the full thing. They've just added the Kahoot type of thing to the mix. And so basically the fast and curious goes like this. The kids come in on Monday, I give them the key vocab words for science, or I give them the Latin roots right off the get-go. Just do it. There's going to be about 15 words. They're going to get about 45% right. Now, this is where the game changes. I'm going to coach them up. Direct instruction kicks in. I'm going to coach them up on a right now basis. And then I'm going to give them the quiz again. I can turn that cycle around in about 12 minutes, Jake. And guess what happens? The scores go up 45 points immediately. This is how good I've gotten at playing this game. I had a teacher tweeting at me last week. She was like, oh my gosh, our scores went up 30% this week. Does that sound good to you? 30%?
That sounds great, but you're saying 45.
I said, you're doing something wrong, sister. And she goes, what do you mean? And I go, how many times a day did you do it? And she goes, I only did once a day. I said, I could tell. Try it next week with twice a day. She emails me back, oh my God, my scores went up 60 points. There's something magical about the doing and then the feedback and then the doing again. There's something about that. I actually made that pedagogical approach up on just a whim with a bunch of educators. I had a bunch of English teachers. And I said, do you like Latin roots? And they said, yes. And I said, let me just give you this quiz with no direct instruction. And I did. And guess what? 27% right. These are English teachers. How's that possible?
Right.
Well, these Latin roots were from Michigan State. So it was a little different than your normal standards. And so I coached them up and I said, let's take the quiz again right now. And they were like, yeah, let's take it right now. We didn't like our score. So boom, 88%. I was like, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let me coach you a little more. Do you want to take the test again? They're like, this shall not stand. We will not accept this score for ourselves. So I got them back in one more time, 98%. And they're like, wow, that was incredible. There was no lecture. There was no worksheet. I don't have anything to correct. I keep talking to me. I like the way this sounds. And I go, let's look at the real thing. Elapsed time, 11 minutes. That's a game changer because the feedback is happening when? Now. And I get to do a lot of PD and I'll ask teachers when kids turn in a stack of papers, whether it's 150 or whether it's 600 or whether it's 30, what's your turnaround time? And they all kind of giggle and go 3 to 11 days, somebody in that window, right? So the problem is that with that feedback, nothing's getting better. And so this process of the fast and the curious changes everything because the feedback is immediate. And then there's a double whammy for the teachers. What am I going to correct tonight, Jake? There was no worksheet.
Right. So there you making the teacher life better there too.
Yeah, teacher life's better. I've had teachers raise their hand. That crossed arm teacher that's suspicious and skeptical. She goes, "Aren't they just memorizing it?" I go, "Dude, I've been waiting 20 years for kids to just memorize. What's the bad part?"
Right.
And it's worth noting. This is DOK 1. This is low level. This is just getting the bold words, the key terminology memorized. That's all it is. This is not causes of World War I, for gosh sakes. This is not what were the framers of the Constitution thinking. This is like, what is parallel? What is a supplementary angle? It's just that basic stuff that we frankly spend way too much time on in education right now, relative to the product we're getting. And almost every teacher I know says, I can't do that because I don't have time. What if I gave you 3 hours a week back? Then what would you do? So that, to me, that fast and curious is key because it allows for people to be bad a couple of times before they're held accountable.
One thing that I love that you said there too, obviously the whole theory of why you're doing it is amazing, that you're giving kids that retests and trying it over and over again. And that's just beautiful, like the way it works there. But one thing I love that you said there was about the DOK 1 part, because there seems to be it's
probably a DOK 0.8 shout out to Alice Keeler. It's probably not even a full 1, right? But it's automaticity. It's the thing that those math teachers crave. It's that automaticity piece. There's the answer.
Right.
Wham.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and what I was going to say is DOK 1 is not bad, right? It's just bad.
No, it's part of the mix.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I say about paper. Paper's not bad unless that's all you've got. If that's all you've got, everything turns into paper, right? But paper and technology can live side by side. You just duct tape them together. See, I worked in a promo for you.
I like that. Thanks for that, man.
Yeah. So duct tape them together. It's not an all or nothing scenario. It's both.
Yeah.
It's a both scenario.
Yeah, right.
And I will give another shout out to Corey Orlando 1. There's a group of us that are what I would call, say, more enlightened teachers from the perspective of not being a slave to the book and looking at the bigger picture and more of a John Dewey approach to the kids. Is what if we did timed math this way? And it took me probably a good 6 months to talk Corey into it because she was like, "I don't like timed math. And I said, "Sister, how are your kids doing in math?" She goes, "Not as good as I want." I go, "Okay, good. Just bear with me. Try it out for 2 weeks and see what you can do." She moved her kids in multiplication in 3 weeks. She had them at 98%, Jake.
Right.
That was from 38% to 98%. What did she correct? Nothing.
Right.
Quizizz did that for her. How did the kids feel about it? They did a drum roll to see their final scores. That's the kind of SEL I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. I love the SEL tie in there. I spent 1 year in my years in the classroom as a 4th grade math teacher. And so we spent time on improving our fluency with multiplication problems. Even though we were focusing on, the double digit and triple digit and division and things like that, I knew that they had to improve that fluency. And so I was repeatedly giving them paper time tests and getting them to improve over and over again, which was a lot of work for me to grade those. And
which wrecked your weekends and Monday Night Football and barbecue time, and you couldn't run to the store for kale-flavored candy, for God's sakes.
True story.
And how long did the kids have to wait for input?
Right.
Like if I do a math fact sheet and you don't tell me how I did till tomorrow, dude, I'm over it.
Oh, gosh, tomorrow that was best case scenario, too. I mean, it was probably a couple days. And so I was using the same theory, but a really inefficient model of it. And so what you're saying is do rapid repetitions of it, make it a thing that the kids enjoy more too, and make it easier.
Oh, yeah. If I was in a self-contaminated classroom, shout out to Harry Wong, who I'm not really a big fan of, but that's a long story.
I love the shout outs, by the way.
It's just a thing I do. Shout out to Harry Wong that, you got to have those procedures, right? You got to have those things. That's all great. But we then somehow make it into a Chairman Mao, Soviet Russia kind of messed up impersonal thing. What if I did Quizizz 3 or 4 times a day, right? And I was like, okay, all right, we're getting ready to go to recess. Who has 2 minutes to practice their math facts? You do. There's no homework. The kids are going to get feedback. Their scores will be higher than they were this morning. We're talking about making learning efficacious and engaging. And I'm not making it easier to do that. I'm making it more accessible. See that little shift right
Right.
there? Accessible and easy are not necessarily synonyms. I heard a gal we're not supposed to call females gals anymore. I heard a doctor from Stanford talk about there's 4 kinds of fun. So there's like fun, like gee whiz, goofy fun, like memes and GIFs, right? And then there's all these classifications of fun. But the part that really struck me with her, out of the 4 kinds of fun, the kind of fun that kids expect at school is hard fun. Hard fun means it's not too easy. I bet if you visit teachers' classrooms that think they're, quote, fun, the kids think they're too easy.
Right.
There is a certain magic to a challenge that's achievable. Can I just name any number of video games? How often do you come in first in Fortnite? Almost never, right? But why do they keep playing it?
Right.
Because the excitement of getting your skill set better is worth it. Most of the time you're getting your butt kicked, but you feel your skills are getting better and you enjoy the overall experience.
I love that. So it's making it more enjoyable for the kids. It's using what we know about the way we learn. It's making things more efficient for the kids. I love that focus on hard fun too. That's totally true. Like that's the video game theory. Nobody wants to play the world's easiest video game.
No, they'll give up on it. They'll say this is dumb, except for Bejeweled, and I can't explain that. That's some kind of mass psychosis. I don't get that. That's a whole other thing.
Right. There's just something wrong. That this mass psychosis is probably the right answer there. So I want to jump to a different tool. I love the Fast and the Curious protocol. We've talked about it on the show before, actually, and I love Quizizz, which is what you normally use with it as Quizizz, just because it's kind of perfect for this format, and it's a great tool. But I also want to kind of give a shout out to Gimkit, because kids love using Gimkit. And for those people that aren't familiar with Gimkit, it's a more game-based version of something like Kahoot. So you take a Kahoot where normally you just find out how many points you got at the end. Gimkit kicks it up a notch, and there's actual there's money involved, pretend money, of course, and the kids can buy multipliers and power-ups and all kinds of things. Watch a group of kids use a Gimkit, and it's insane what's happening in there. The teacher understands half of what's going on, but the kids understand all of what's going on, and they forget they're doing educational stuff and that they're learning. And I think you could actually probably use it in the Fast and the Curious format.
That because you're such a magnanimous host, Jake. EdTech Duct Tape. You've just set me up perfectly for this, because I run people usually through Quizizz when we're doing this, and then I stand in front of them and I say it about 7 times. I'm not showing you Quizizz. Quizizz was an accidental casualty in this scenario. I am not showing you Quizizz. Yeah. I am showing you a pedagogy which is based on allow a high degree of failure probability, immediate feedback, and then me cleaning it up and you getting another rep immediately. That's what I'm showing you. So it would work in Gimkit or Gimkit. It would work. It does work in Quizlet. It does work in Kahoot.
Right.
It does work with GoFormative. In GoFormative, we have a variation where they draw their answer. Dude, if you can draw a thing, you own it, right? But here's the shift.
Yeah.
In the old days, I would give kids a hashtag worksheet so that they would draw the thing. They would hand the thing back in. I would correct it in 3 to 11 days. And then they didn't care, right? So, but by using GoFormative, kids can draw their picture in. I can give them really good feedback. This beef heart is not accurate at all. This is not even close. I coach them up. Try again. And now they come back to school the next day going, show me that beef heart thing. I got this. That is a totally different brain thing. And I'm no brain researcher. I'm a nose guard. I don't understand all this brain stuff. I'm just telling you it works. It works. When you give kids a chance to fail and it's low stakes, and the goal is everybody will take their attempt, and then I'm going to give you feedback, and now we're going to play for accuracy, everything changes. And guess what grade level this works out? Turns out all of them.
Yeah, I believe it.
Including human adults that might not be teachers.
Yeah, I mean, so I sat in your session at ISTE that you and Marlena Hebron, your co-author, did, and I'm blanking on the name of the other gentleman who presented with Sonny.
Oh, Sonny Magana.
Sonny Magana, and you guys did a great presentation about how his T3 framework blends in with EduProtocols, and we played the Fast and the Curious in there, and people were just like having a blast trying to get better every time, and we did, and we got immensely better. And like you said, we were using Quizizz, but we don't have to be using Quizizz. Anything that asks us those questions.
You could do it on paper. You just have to be willing to walk around and look at everybody's paper real quick.
Yeah.
But conceptually, it works exactly the same.
Okay, so that's our formative assessment, and so we're talking about using the Fast and the Curious with any gosh darn formative assessment tool you could find, down to a piece of paper or holding numbers up with your hands or whatever it might be,
Right.
to go through that protocol. So what's your question?
What are some ideas you have for teachers to achieve the immortal paradox? I want you to have the vision of the Crusader in Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? So how can we teach better and work less? Is that possible?
So I think we should do like we just end the podcast right now. I think we should just do the Fast and the Curious protocol. Like that's it, right? There's our answer right there. Yeah. But I'm gonna give a different answer just to share.
Well, what if I told you there
were
27 other protocols that worked similarly? Then what about that?
Yeah, I've heard there are. Is there any place that we could find those 27 EduProtocols?
Oh my God! If there was only a way that we could provide that with technology, what it is today. Yes, there is. Actually, now there are two ways. One is you can go to q.org/craft, as in the craft of teaching, and scroll to the bottom. There's about 6 packages there from various educators who are using the EduProtocols mindset. Shout out to Lisa Nowakowski for math reps. And then so there's those. And then if you go to eduprotocols.com, there's a free link there where people can download these. We, Marlene and I, consider all of this stuff open pedagogy. We have all those templates, and if people look on, there's a Facebook page where we share things. It's all free. If they want to buy the book, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But there's tons of this stuff out there for free, and the craft part comes in the sense of, if you think of food trucks, craft food, craft beer, brewing, is that one person says, I'm going to make a beer that is better than a corporate beer, and another person says, I'm going to fly to Ireland and research other kinds of beers, and then pretty soon we have porters. And I'd never heard of a porter till I was 45. I didn't know there was any such thing as a porter, and now we have nitro coffee porters, because people just keep adding a little bit to the mix. So some of the protocols we have, like Iron Chef or Cyber Sandwich, we try to give them all a goofy name. Okakucha, which is now shortened to VK. Heather Marshall did that. Shout out to Heather Marshall. And so these teachers are all looking at it going, this is really cool, but I could add some of this to that, or I could do this.
Yeah, so we call that here in educational duct tape land. We call that adjacent possible, right? By exposing yourself or your ideas to other ideas or other people, you're starting to then see this adjacent possible. These other things are starting to open up as these protocols start to expand when other people bring their perspective to it. That's beautiful, and I love that term, open pedagogy, because that really is what EduProtocols are. That you take it and you fill your content or your goals or learning standards or whatever it is into this existing pedagogy. So it really is open pedagogy, and it's out there for people to find for free. Like, the books are wonderful, and I recommend them to everybody, and everybody should go out and buy them. But you're absolutely right. No. They don't have to, right? They can totally do this in the class.
Somebody out there invented red velvet cake. I don't think they're getting a commission, right? Because now I got red velvet Hostess cupcakes and red velvet kombucha. It's crazy. So if you take that same model, actually, I can tell you the history of the guy that invented nachos. His name was Ignacio. And they used to be nachos especial with an apostrophe. But somewhere along the line, they quit using the apostrophe. So now it's just nachos. And then somewhere along the line, some guy in a bar said, wait a minute, I don't need to just put cheese on the chips. I could put more stuff. And then his friend said, let's dump a burrito out on the chips and call it loaded nachos. And they were all like, what? That's crazy. And we were happy with that for 5 or 6 years. And then somebody else said, I could do that with pulled pork. I could put pulled pork on the chips, and then I could dump out a pulled pork sandwich on chips with a coleslaw and everything. And people are like, that'll be horrible. And then you eat it and you go, this is the best idea all year. And then I'm in LA and I go to Robert Tito's restaurant and I look up at the menu and it says carne asada fries. And I know what that is. That's a burrito dumped out on French fries instead of chips. And so that's the kind of stuff that's going on with open pedagogy. People are like, that's really awesome. It makes me go, I could eat it all day, but if I added this to that, it would be my own party. And that's really what we've been missing in education.
So we jump from open nacho gaji there.
Open nacho gaji. I like that. I should make a sticker for that.
Right. You should.
I should. Well, I'm working on the nacho paragraph one right now. Just haven't had time. You know what you call paragraphs that are not yours, Jake? You know. Yeah, you call them nacho paragraphs.
Oh, that's right.
Well, that's actually a Fast and Curious variation, where what we do is we have the kids write a quick paragraph. based on random emoji or whatever.
Right.
And then I take one of those resultant paragraphs and I copy paste that short paragraph. I paste it into a new short answer in Socrative.
Mm-hmm.
And then every kid copies it and edits it when, Jake? Now.
Right then, yeah.
And whose paragraph is it, Jake? Not yours. Ergo, nacho paragraph. And I've just skipped 2 or 3 weeks of teaching kids editing marks.
Right.
Which, frankly, I have found that they will forget them on the very first assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting into live revision of their writing in real time. And I've done it with adults. And the result, with the kids and the adults is like, wow, that was really fun. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll take one of their paragraphs and say, children, there's no proper nouns in there. We need some proper nouns. Or can you hack it and make it from first person to third person? Can you make it future tense? And so you're going to get 35 variations on that paragraph in about 6 minutes. And then they get to see that input. It's explosive, the difference.
Right. That's so cool. The nacho paragraph. I like that one. That's a new one for me. I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, it's a new variation I came up with by accident.
So I thought when you were saying that a nacho paragraph was like when you're grading a kid's paper and they plagiarize an entire paragraph, and you're like, you've got a nacho paragraph in here. And the kid,
you could. It's a multi-use feature. You could use it in that context, but mine's more positive, which is nachoing your paragraph, which means all the kids in this class are going to upgrade you right now. And then this is worth pointing out because I don't want people getting off on the wrong foot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the nacho paragraph is to improve it technically,
right?
I.e., I spy with my little eye 3 grammar errors. You all need to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
I spy with my little eye no proper nouns. You need to fix them. Sometimes the nacho paragraph is really good and there's nothing wrong with it. We're just going to take another crack at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have the nacho be related to a negative context.
Right. No, that's a good point to start using good ones in there.
And then they never know what's coming. And then if you get selected to be the nacho, you get double points for the day.
Nice.
Because nachos.
Because nachos. That's a perfect reason. Because nachos. I love it. So we got two in there for that answer for making teachers teach better and work less. We've got EduProtocols in general, and we talked about the nacho paragraph protocol, and we talked about the Fast and the Curious protocol, which are both great ways for, like as we said there, teach better, work less. I love it. I was actually going to say as my answer, using choice boards and putting the students in charge of doing the work, right? Like just say, here's the content that you've learned, and then take this. Well, maybe not even learn. Maybe we think more PBL, right? They're learning as they're going, but choose your way of going through and representing this knowledge that you now have. Choose to create a video or a song or whatever it might be. But things like that are a little less teaching, a little more student doing, which student doing is wonderful. Whereas, you're talking about these things that lead them through it, which is wonderful.
Right. And it's a blend. You need the choice boards, right? But you can't just do choice boards all day. They won't have the skills. And that to me is one of the little hidden things that teachers don't fully understand, which is you need to do both. You need the automaticity piece, you need the reps piece, but you also need the open-ended, I'm not sure what's going to happen piece.
Yeah, you got to hit all those DOKs, going back to what you said.
You got to hit them all.
Yeah.
Yep.
The students
it's
need
not
those.
An option.
Right. Yeah, you can't just say like I'm skipping 1, 2, and 3 and I'm going to 4, or I'm skipping 1 and 2 and going to 3. You've got to do something that brings them all along.
Yep.
We did so much amazingness today, John. This was amazing. Thanks for bringing so much. We talked about ice cream and kale and meat and candy and barbecuing. And
it's 11:56. I go on lunch at 12.
It's 11:56. My clock says it's 2:56.
Well, we live in different areas, so that all makes sense.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah, it's just different places. I can make up some. I can do a quick Fast and Curious for you on time zones if you'd like.
Thank you. That would be helpful. Yeah, let's set that up.
Not a problem.
All right, John. Thank you so much for being on today. What a blast.
All righty, thank you, Jake. Much appreciated. It was good to hang out with you.
Oh, what a good time having John on the show. So many laughs and so much good knowledge shared. If you got a kick out of the conversation with John, there's a little surprise waiting for you at the end of this episode. But before we get to that little surprise involving John, we got some stuff from the Duct Tapers that I'd like to share. First up, how about an Apple Podcast review? This one comes from Strickland C. The title of the review is So Much to Love, and it says, Jake's podcasts are so fun and informative. Love adding all the ideas and tools I learn about to my tech coach toolbox. Thank you for that, Strickland C. This review has the two things that are most important for me in a review, and it's not the complimentariness of it. It's the fact that they're having fun listening and that it's benefiting them in their, career and education, whether as a tech coach or as a classroom teacher. I love hearing that the stuff we talk about is a benefit to you, and I love hearing that you're having fun listening, because that's one of the most important parts to me. I'm proud of you for wanting to learn more to benefit the students in your school, but you deserve to have fun while you're going about it, and so that is great to hear. Let's jump over now to the educational duct tape Flipgrid, and our first share comes from Hunter McConnell, who's going to share about one of his favorite Chrome extensions. Take it away, Hunter.
Hello, my name is Hunter McConnell. I'm going to share with y'all an extension that I've used in my classroom and in several trainings. It is called Move It, and you can find it in the Chrome Web Store. Simply type in Move It, and what it does is you can set time increments to allow basically your students to get up and do an activity, and it'll provide the activity for you. It'll display it nice and big on your screen. You could do like every 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. I believe in increments of 5 last time I checked. And it's just great because it's a physical activity, usually lets your students kind of take a little quick brain break from an activity that they're doing or classwork, or maybe even a break for you in between your lesson that you're giving for the students. So go to the Chrome Web Store, type in Move It, and it's an extension that you can add onto Chrome.
That is a great extension there, Hunter. Thank you for that share. I do like the Move It Chrome extension. It's a nice way when you're sitting at a desk job for long hours to force yourself to get up and do something. It chooses random things for you. Maybe it's jumping jacks or something like that. But it's also a cool idea to do it in professional developments and classrooms like Hunter is suggesting. So thank you for sharing that, Hunter. Let's jump back over now to Apple Podcast reviews. And this one comes from Carter Arbuckle. Carter, I wonder if you're related to John from Garfield. Wasn't John Arbuckle? I'm guessing that you're not related to a cartoon character. Oh, gosh. But the title of this review, thank you for it, Carter. The title of the review is Applicable and Useful, and it says, as a teacher librarian, I feel that it is important to stay up to date on best practices in EdTech. EDU Duct Tape provides applicable strategies and practices that I could use and share with colleagues. I like the mix of expert interviews and real-world applications via Flipgrid responses. Thank you for that, Carter. I appreciate the review. If you are related to John from Garfield, let me know. Otherwise, I do appreciate you listening. I appreciate the review. And I love hearing about people in different varieties of education-related careers, like a teacher librarian listening, because I do think that all those perspectives being involved here does benefit all of us. So that's great news to hear. Let's jump over to Twitter for some of my favorite hashtag EDU duct tape tweets since the last episode. I've only got 2 to share today, and that's because I tend to ignore the ones that come from the chat because those are already curated in one big blog post that I make during the course of the week, supported by some of my buddies that are the mighty ducts that help me out with some of the tasks related to the show. So I will include the link to that curated list of tweets in the show notes so that you can go in there, because there were some funny ones and some fun ones during that chat, especially about Mike's wardrobe malfunction and things like that. But 2 favorite tweets that didn't relate to the chat. One came from Matt Meyer, who is at 54 Mr. Meyer. He said, finally got a chance to listen to this week's hashtag EDU Duct Tape podcast episode with at JakeMillerTech and at Mo_physics. Needless to say, I got a lot of concerning looks from other drivers as I was laughing so much while hashtag alone in the car, hashtag MoPhysics, MoProblems, hashtag wardrobe malfunction. Thank you for that, Matt. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of those funny looks when you're hearing things like Mike saying that he had to go to Walmart before his first class period to trade out his jeans that he had torn a hole in. Our next tweet comes from my buddy Mike Feldman at Feldman Tech. He said, at JakeMillerTech, speaking of, we should go axe throwing sometime. ? Are you telling me, Mike, or are you asking me? I'm not sure. Guys, I think the answer is probably no. But then the tweet continued, first hashtag EDU duct tape meetup. I see potential. I don't know, Mike. I don't think I should be throwing axes. The reason Mike was sharing this tweet was I was honored to be featured in I don't even know how to describe this, an article on an online newspaper or magazine or a periodical or something or other from Spain, I believe, called El Confidencial, which referred to my hashtag EDU GIFs that I am well known for on Twitter. And it was obviously written in Spanish, the tweet was, and it translated in Google Translate to make yourself an axe driving Google with these Make yourself an axe-driving Google with these shortcuts and secrets that this math teacher discovers. I'm not sure if they really meant to say an axe-driving Google, but that's what it autocorrected to. And so Mike thinks that we should have a podcast, duct taper meetup, and do some axe throwing. I think that's a horrible idea, Mike. I'm sorry, buddy. I don't think us duct tapers should be throwing axes. Maybe some of us can throw axes, but I don't, not me for sure. Okay, before we do our new hashtag edu duct tape tweeps of the I don't really know what to say here because it's not a week, it's not a month, it's 2 weeks. Is that a fortnight? Can I call it a fortnight? The kids would be totally confused. The new hashtag edu duct tape tweeps of the fortnight. Let's do one more Flipgrid response. This one comes from friend of the show, fellow duct taper, Laura Cahill. Take it away, Laura.
Hey Jake and fellow duct tapers, this is Laura Cahill. You can find me on Twitter at Educator. I couldn't help but come on over to the Flipgrid this week, especially after hearing Paul West's impassioned plea. So thanks for the push there, Paul. I'm so excited that season 2 of Educational Duct Tape is here for a couple of reasons. First, of course, because of the awesome guests and content that Jake brings to us, but also because in the last few weeks, I've brought both of my children off to college. So while it's an exciting time for them and for all of us, there's a little bit of empty nest syndrome, of course. So it's been great. When I come home after school each day, I was used to having a house full of teenagers, and now I can pop on the podcast and listen to some great conversation and get some great tips and tricks to use with the teachers I work with. So I really appreciate it, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Laura. I'm glad to be a new part of your empty nest routine. I hope that you're still doing okay as an empty nest mom. I know that's probably, I don't know, a little bit sad, but then there's probably some fun times when you're not listening to teenagers arguing about Fortnite or outfits or clothes or how lame their parents are, and you get to listen to me ramble about weird things. So anyhow, thank you for listening and for sharing. And she was referring to Paul West a couple episodes back, pleading for the duct tapers to get involved on the Flipgrid so that I could share some of the audio from you guys, and she was inspired by that. So thank you, Paul, and thank you, Laura. And to the rest of you, head on over to eduducttape.com and click on the Flipgrid button, or head over to flipgrid.com/eduducttape and leave a response so you can be featured on the show at some point in the future. And finally, our new hashtag eduducttape tweeps of the fortnight I'm going with. I guess. Is that 2 weeks? Is 2 weeks a fortnight? They are at A Watkins 001, at C McKee 27, at Coach Reed 30, at Doink Tweets, at Yana _Linehan, at Justy May, at K _Volmar, at KD Miller 4, which is not my sister Katie Miller, it's KD Miller 4, at Mrs. Betts QHS, at NB Middle AG. And that does it for episode 29 of the Educational Duct Tape podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me this episode, as you always are. I appreciate you duct tapers so much. If you haven't done it yet, please help out and do something like leaving the show a review on your favorite podcast platform, or participating in the Flipgrid, or tweeting about the show. I hope to see you all in the Twitter chat next Wednesday night, as well as in the hashtag Ditchbook Twitter chat tomorrow night if you're hearing this in time. And let's see what else. Remember to tell a friend. Remember to join the Duct Tapers Facebook group if you are a Facebooker. Remember to, subscribe to my newsletter if you don't already do it. Remember to keep being awesome. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast. Please consider rating and reviewing the show on your favorite podcast app. Hashtag EduDuctTape.
So go ahead. What are your three statements?
3 statements. Give me some more context. I need to give you 3 statements. One is not true. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, here's my first one. Ready? John's not good at things on the first try.
Okay.
Second statement. Second statement.
So what's your question for me?
What is the EdTech duct tapiest thing you have done? Like, what is the sketchiest thing that you said, I don't know, but I'm gonna duct tape this because I got about 500 stickers that say I do. What's the sketchiest duct tapiest thing you've done? I can give you a couple of mine, but I would love to hear what yours are.
John, you're supposed to ask the question that's at the bottom of the doc there.
Oh, I was just randomly making up questions.
I don't know my answer. If I had a good answer, I would have gone with it. But I don't know what my answer is, so I'm going to take that out because I look like a fool not knowing my answer.
Oh, that was such a good question, though. Yeah, okay, so my question: do we need to have a few seconds of silence and then reboot?